Hello everybody, I wanna fucking die. I just played, no, not just played, but like I played Ring Fit last night and my whole body is sore. Wait, give me 1 minute. Oh god. I guess first off, I have to thank you guys, for all the nice messages I got on Patreon, under my most recent post. That was really encouraging. Like, I mean, for those who didn't see it, basically was about sort of me struggling to figure out what to do with the Patreon now that my life has changed so much, right? I think I know exactly what to do now. I have like a big plan for how I'm gonna like roll things out. I think this is this video is like way fucking overdue. So I'm gonna push that out before the end of the month, for sure. But I think on the rest I'm gonna wait a tiny bit because I just learned that I'm getting my MacBook next week already, which is like sooner than expected. And like the whole noise situation, if you remember, with my laptop, is just so fucking stupid and it's really annoying, and it's like enough to make me wanna wait on that instead, so I can do future things on that. I mean, you hear my fans faring up again. See, it's probably not that audible here, but like, and like even in streams, I mean, with the in-game audio, it kind of masks the noise a lot. But to me, it's very irritating to like hear every time I speak, you'll hear this like peak and like whistling, sort of this like weird whistling, this really high-pitched, like, shrieking kind of sound. And it's really fucking irritating to me. I don't actually know how I'm gonna... Yeah, the thing is, when I have the MacBook, right, I'm only gonna have one screen, really, to... Well, I guess... Hang on a minute. What's the good way I could do it? Well, I guess there's a way I could do it, right? If my capture card supports the MacBook somehow. Like, I haven't tested... Obviously, I haven't been able to test that yet, but, like... The thing is, my MacBook can only do one screen at a time, but maybe that's fine. Maybe I can just play the game on the TV and then have the chat on my monitor. Yeah. I don't know. It's just like for the MacBook, I would have to get a new monitor, and well, I guess I can just keep using this one, yeah, for a little bit. Yeah, maybe that's a good idea. Just to play games on it, yeah. Yeah, maybe that works. Okay, we'll figure it out. I guess the remaining question is if the capture card is gonna work. But yeah, it might put sort of a limit on my ability to stream for the foreseeable future until I get a PC, which hopefully I will like this summer. But yeah, you'll see this video is titled Roguelikes ? Obviously, I probably don't have to explain the reason why roguelikes are like kind of on my mind right now. Well, they're not on my mind right now as much because like we're a little bit removed now from the release of Hades, but like I just didn't get around to talk about sort of my thoughts. Because, yeah, I'm going to talk about Hades more in the Game of the Year thing that I'm going to do for February. But it's going to come out next month because, like I said, with the MacBook. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about the game as much specifically, but I'm just going to talk about like what it made me sort of think about with the genre of roguelikes, because the thing about roguelikes is that I think on the surface they should appeal to me like a lot. Just the idea of a game that's pretty challenging, very short. You can play it over and over again. It doesn't have a lot of like fucking interruptions or whatever, you know? It's just very get in, get out. Very pick and play, you know? That's like exactly the kind of shit that I look for. But so far there hasn't really been a roguelike that's been like ideal for me, you know? I think so yeah, with Hades I was like kind of let down by it. I'm gonna explain why in a little bit. And that just made me sort of go back to like Spelunky, because Spelunky is kind of the antithesis to Hades in a lot of ways. It really represents a lot of things that I personally like way more in games, but also I guess roguelikes specifically. And even Spelunky doesn't appeal 100% to my taste. Like there's a lot of things, like I still haven't beaten Spelunky. Like I spent a lot of time with it like early this year and like last year. And I got really close to beating it, but like yeah. There's still a couple of things that annoy me, but it's definitely a game I respect a lot, and just with Hades I don't feel the same way. See, how do I wrap this up? It's interesting that with Hades, when you like look at interviews and shit, and like even reviews, right? Just even when you like look at how the game sort of is received by people, one thing they always emphasize is like that they want to make failure, like they want to reduce the frustration as much as possible, right? Of that, they even say like literally they say in like marketing material that they want death to be something that you look forward to in that game, because you go back to the House of Hades, you get to hang out with the characters again, you get to talk to them again, you learn more of the story, you can upgrade yourself, which increases your chances for the next run, right? I guess yeah, like when you're in a run and you're getting darkness, which is the big upgrade resource, right? And you also you have keys, you have Titan's Blood, you have Ambrosia, I guess. Not Ambrosia, right? What is the thing that you use to fucking Nectar, I guess? To like get the other people to like love you. Whatever, right? Like I guess when you're getting all that stuff in a run, it sort of builds the anticipation, oh shit, I can use that now. To upgrade myself and then do even better next round, right? I guess that is a pretty, like, on the surface, that is, like, a pretty, addictive system, right? But for me, it didn't work at all. I'm gonna go into the specific reasons more, sort of, when I talk about the game and the Game of the Year thing. But, like, I have such a fucking philosophical, like, inherent disagreement with the idea that and I want to be careful on how I say this, because like if I say this like too sort of in this like inflammatory kind of way, it's I feel like I don't want to make it sound more simplistic than it is, right? But like it really does feel like it's a game where you're not really rewarded for getting more skilled at it. You're getting rewarded for grinding instead, right? I want to make sure that that's, like, if I just say it like that, it's gonna seem like a very simplistic viewpoint, right? But it really does feel like, I mean, if you look at Darkness, for example, which, like I said, is the main sort of upgrade resource, some of the shit that you get with that is Stubborn Defiance, which lets you retry, once per room, right? If you die in a room, you get one more life. Or you can upgrade your health. Or you can upgrade the number of times you can dash in a row, right? All this shit increases your chances of survival so much fucking more. Without you even having to, like, do anything, right? It's not like a Devil May Cry or something where, like, you can buy a skill, but then you still need to, like, be able to use it and, like, apply it, you know? Yeah, in I hate that I'm comparing everything to DMC, but, like, I started a new playthrough in DMC4 because I bought the PS4, right? And Legendary Dark Knight, like, legitimately is so much more difficult if you don't have Devil Trigger, right? But it's not like Devil Trigger is, like, this automatic band-aid. Yeah, if you have it, then it's just gonna be way easier. Like, you can't actually make use of it unless you, like, time it correctly, and, like, unless you use maximum bets, unless you put the enemy sort of in a place where you can hit a lot of them at once, right? In Hades, like, most of the upgrades don't work that way. Most of the upgrades are very linearly, yeah, you get them, and then just the game automatically gets easier, right? I think everyone is, like, just gonna have a different perspective on this sort of thing, but personally, I don't think it's unreasonable to say that, just like I said, philosophically, game design-wise, that's just something that does not appeal to me at all. Because I really do, when I'm at, like, I finished the game, right? And I really have the distinct sense that, yeah, I actually didn't fucking get better at the core combat at all. The core mechanics at all. It's just like, I figured out better how to, like, sort of manipulate all the RNG shit in a way that benefits me most, right? Because one thing, for example, you learn later is that you can influence which boons are gonna appear. Not like the actual specific boons, but which gods are gonna appear, right? And that, obviously, depending on like the kind of build you're aiming for, depending on the weapon you have, that makes a lot of sense, right? To for example, if you have the shield, the one that throws a lot of different shields at the same time, it makes sense to go for a god that has like some kind of curse status, or like Zeus or something like that, right? And I think that kind of speaks to that, like, yeah, the most interesting aspect of the game is finding like combinations that work with each other and that make the game easier and easier, essentially, without you having to get that good at the combat. I don't want that to sound so dismissive, but like, you see all the fucking crazy shit that people are doing, right? Like all the speedrunners and all that, and you also see they've just grinded everything to the max, right? There's no way you can do any of this shit without having grinded first for like 100 hours. And that's super fucking dumb to me. Like, because it really doesn't take that much skill to like, find like a combo that works. I mean, what takes a little bit of skill is like, when the RNG fucks you over and you don't get the one thing that you like need to complete your build, and then you need to kind of work without it. But in my experience, that just feels terrible. It feels very demoralizing to like want this one thing to make your build work, and then you don't get it, right? Yeah, like, just it feels like every mechanic in the game is so dependent on like grinding RNG, and like knowing the right build, rather than like understanding sort of the core combat mechanics and then being able to apply things on the fly, right? See, I feel like the common defense is gonna be like, oh, just fucking just don't use any of the upgrades, you know? Just just roll with whatever random boons you get, right? And just play the game that way. Like, two problems with that. Number one, like, literally permanent upgrades are in every fucking part of the game. Even like, having to get the charms from every god, right, to be able to influence when they appear. That's like a form of grinding, kind of, right? And like, yeah, the more you upgrade the charms, the better the boons that you're gonna get are gonna be. So, like, you're removing this whole aspect from the game if you remove the grinding, right? If you say, just don't grind, man, you're removing the idea of, like, consciously choosing a build, right? And that speaks kind of to my next point, which is, that's the most interesting part of the game, right? That's the most free-form, kind of exploratory, strategic part of the game where you're trying to find combinations that work. And like, that is cool, that feels satisfying. Because if you remove all that stuff, you're playing a pretty fucking basic action game. You know? Like, there's some stuff that I was pretty impressed with, you know, like being able to knock enemies into walls and shit like that, right? And being able to knock enemies into traps. And just like the controls are pretty elegant. For example, the charging the shield doubles as blocking, you know? I think that's all really cool, but in practice, like you're you're hitting the health bar and then you're dodging, right? That's all you're doing, really. And all the RNG, RPG shit exists to make that sort of more interesting, right? I guess it is like Dark Souls in a way, you know, where the actual combat is like really basic, but then the RPG stuff adds something interesting on top. But because but like I like Dark Souls because the RPG stuff doesn't feel so dependent on randomness and on grinding, and more so on like just knowledge of the world and like what enemies can drop what and stuff. So yeah, like that's why I think just this defense is just don't grind, man. Like it doesn't make sense at all because it doesn't like it doesn't actually take into consideration what's appealing about the game, right? And also it just doesn't, it logistically doesn't make sense because it's so, the grinding is like so sort of deeply woven into the game, and I really don't like that. And I don't know, man, like I think roguelikes just have so much potential to be more about like moment to moment interesting decisions and like kind of going with the flow. And I see that's why Spelunky, obviously it does not have any RPG stuff. It does not have any permanent upgrades. And like kind of like DMC. I'm sorry. Kind of like DMC. There's items that you can find sort of randomly that will increase your chances, right? Like that will make the game definitely easier. But you still have to like be able to like use them to apply them to those situations to be able to get an advantage. But also they really do just feel like extensions of shit you can already do, right? Like flying with the jetpack and Spelunky, yes, that's extremely fucking useful. But really you have the rope, right? You still have a way of ascending at all times. So nothing feels like it's strictly needed. Like obviously there's a factor of like luck in Spelunky, right? And that can be kind of frustrating. Like I do find the fact that the game sort of, even with like 100 hours in it, you still have to be pretty patient with some stuff, and in a way that's not very fun, right? I don't think stopping before every pot and like slowly breaking it so that you don't get hit, like in case a spider or a snake comes out, that's not that fun. That's not that interesting. But overall, yeah, like just the factor of luck it's really like just one tiny piece of the puzzle. You can really overcome everything with skill. I guess that's another thing about Hades, like just the battlefield gets so fucking busy and cluttered that see, it's still not really clear to me if your dodge has like iframes. Even all the speedrunners, they tell you, yeah, you need to get the Athena dodge because like it's fucking impossible to like defend otherwise. And like they tell you to get when you have the punch weapon, right, to get the Athena punch because that will like automatically deflect everything. Because actually defending against stuff like reactively is way too difficult in that game. That's why it's just annoying to me when people say like, oh, just don't grind, like as if Hades mechanically was like some hardcore lad game, you know? It's really not. And yeah, I still like, obviously, like, was the fucking biggest critical darling whatever last year. I respect it. I think it has a cool like vibe, that game. But it's like design-wise, it's not what I like. Design-wise, it's not what I like to see in games, and like, it's just like, yeah, it really does feel like people, it has this addictive formula, you know, and it's not so frustrating to me. Like, to me, it's very frustrating to like see that my skill doesn't fucking matter, you know. And like I said, like, I feel like, yeah, I feel like I would often go on a run and increasingly feel the RNG dicking me by not giving me shit that was actually useful, shit that actually fit my build that I was going for. And yeah, you have to like consider, even as an action game, the mechanics are so specifically built to take advantage of the RNG shit, right? I mentioned the shield that can throw multiple shields, or like you have the Artemis sword, no, the Nemesis sword, I think, and like, obviously, because it's so based on crits, it makes sense to go for Artemis runes, right? And you can't do that unless you grind a little bit, you know? And I just don't like it. I'm just not into it. I think I don't have to explain it more than that, right? I'm just philosophically vehemently against the idea that in a game where you do run after run after run, right? That the way you succeed is by grinding. That just philosophically does not feel right to me. Okay, yeah, this was a short video. Nice. I want to record this really quick before I stream Guilty Gear final beta day. Guilty Gear, great game. Guilty Gear, a game where every fucking millisecond of gameplay actually is an interesting decision, and you fucking there's no grinding at all, you know, it's just fucking your own skill. Isn't that fucking cool? Okay, goodbye, guys. Yeah, see you next month. Hopefully with the GOTY list. I guess maybe, like, yeah, if I'm waiting for the MacBook anyway, maybe that actually gives me time to finish 13 Sentinels. It's been nice to have time off of college, finally. Oh. Yeah. Goodbye. Okay, guys, I just finished streaming Guilty Gear for 3 hours, and then I realized, fuck, with this video, I said, like, I wasn't gonna talk about Hades specifically, and then I really just ended up comparing what I don't like about Hades to Spelunky, right, and what that game does better, but, like, I failed to kind of talk about roguelikes more generally, I guess. So I guess I want to add, like, another 10 minutes to this. See, because, yeah, like I kind of said at the start, I feel like roguelikes should appeal to me way more than they actually do in practice. And, yeah, Hades, for that game, the focus seemed to be to make the whole process, as least frustrating as possible. Is that how can you say that? Is that English? Whatever, I don't know. As least frustrating, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I'll have to look at what's the opposite of, like, as adjective as possible. There has to be, like, a fucking way to do that. Anyway, and I don't, yeah, and, like, I think the way it does that is just kind of cheap. It very much cheapens the experience, and I think roguelikes are supposed to be skill-based games and, like, knowledge-based games and all that, and Hades is just not that at all. It's more like, yeah, you kind of, I mean, it's a little bit knowledge-based, right? But, like, it's mostly just time investment-based and grinding-based, and that's kind of irritating. Obviously, like, obviously you can do better or worse in that game, but, yeah. I mean, if I already explained my position. See, I think Spelunky is sort of on the other end of the spectrum where it's, like, so knowledge-based that sometimes it kind of, like, I vastly prefer it over Hades, sort of in terms of its philosophy. But it still gets to a point sometimes where I'm like, yeah, okay, I've broken, like, pots 100 times now, and, like, doing it so carefully every single time gets kind of irritating. And I think I do want to make a roguelike eventually, I think. I think that's something I would like to do. And sort of having, like, knowing what I do now, I definitely think the items from Spelunky are a really sort of good starting point, right? I think. See, another thing I'm thinking. Oh, sorry, I'm messing around with my arcade stick. Another thing I'm thinking is like, like an action game kind of formula would work really well with roguelikes, right? Because I mean, and that's what Hades kind of is, right? Like, is like an action game where you're locked in rooms and stuff. I think just having sort of dedicated sections of combat, and you can make some mistakes in that, and then but like how well you do kind of determines the rest of the run, kind of like Hades again. I think it suits both roguelikes and action games really well, right? Because yeah, I mean, in Platinum games you have the scoring system, right? And in DMC you kind of don't give a shit about the scoring system, or like individual mistakes don't really matter that much because you have checkpoints and stuff. So I think sort of embedding that in a roguelike structure just makes a lot of sense. There's one more sort of thing, one more wrinkle. Yeah, I already have kind of a full concept for a roguelike, but I'm not gonna. I want to mix action games with like one other thing, but I'm not gonna reveal what that one other thing is. So nobody steals my idea. But I think it could be really cool. And yeah, just having the items from Spelunky in an action game setting. I feel like, I'm thinking, I don't want to reveal too much, but like, for the game I was like conceptualizing, I was thinking something like the Devil Breakers in DMC5, you know, where it's like you suddenly get like an item and it's like fuck, and then you can use it a couple times and it's gone, right? Just this very situational kind of thing would be really cool, and I think it would fit that vibe well, right? I really, yeah, like I said, sort of with my experience playing roguelikes now, I feel like what I want is a game that you can jump in, that you can like jump into really quickly, that's immediately fun to play, that doesn't require grinding at all. Like, I think you would still need some kind of upgrade system for like moves and shit. Kind of like I said with DMC, right? But I think that's fine. And like, yeah, I have one really cool idea as well for like how to ease players in a little bit. My friend Björn told me about this one game called Dicey Dungeons. It's a turn-based roguelike, and essentially you play through it with different characters. And the first character that you have access to is the easiest one, right? So that first run, you can get through it really comfortably, and then with subsequent characters, you actually get to the really, like, to the real intended game, sort of. I have, like, a similar idea for the game I'm conceptualizing. I'm not gonna say what it is, but I think that having, like, some sort of practice run first, where it's more lenient, and then going into the real game. I think then combining that with an action game upgrade system, right? Where in the first run, you're getting upgrades, and then by the time you get to the real shit, you already have everything, right? So it doesn't feel grindy at all. And then, again, when you're in that real-ass game, that's where the sort of, like, addicting kind of loop begins, where you're just, like, from that point onward, you want to play over and over again, right? I think that's what I would like to achieve. And I think you could, like, add sort of stuff... Oh, sorry. I think, even though as much as I was disappointed with Hades, I think just the idea of having stuff around the runs is nice. Maybe not so much stuff, right? Yeah, I wish, like, that's the thing. I think instead of dropping like at the sort of entrance of the House of Hades, you should just well, I'm not saying this makes sense for Hades specifically, right? But like in my ideal world, it's like the door to actually start the run, you always just start there, right? You're always dropped there after death. So that you still see, oh shit is like different now, I can talk to all these guys, but also I can ignore that and like fucking whatever, right? Just start my next run immediately. And like, yeah, I think Hades just hits that weird middle ground where the like talking to the characters obviously has a little bit of a bearing on gameplay, but not that much, right? And to me it ends up being so that like I kind of feel like I have to talk to everyone, otherwise I'm missing out, otherwise I'm gimping myself. Like with the weapon aspects, for example, obviously you're not gonna find them unless you talk to Achilles a bunch of times, right? I don't really remember. Like, I think there's some other characters you have to talk to as well. Yeah, I mean, I think you have to talk to Achilles to get the first one. Doesn't matter though. But yeah, generally the idea is that you have to pay attention to like the characters and the story to some extent, right? You can't completely ignore it. But at the same time, yeah, so that kind of kills the idea of like just doing runs over and over again and just not worrying about it, on top of like managing fucking resources and like grinding yourself up and like distributing your darkness or whatever. Like all that slows down the game in a way that I don't really like. So that's one thing, but still a lot of that shit feels kind of underdeveloped in the end, you know? I feel like the game, it's not really like Persona where it has like an actual relationship system, where you need to pick the right responses and stuff. It's very much completely linear in that way, and I think that makes it kind of feel very artificial and not very interesting, you know? And that's the thing, I'm not saying it should be more complicated. It's already too complicated, you know, it's already too much. But because there is like a lot of stuff there, it makes the sort of missed potential more apparent, I think, to me. Yeah, that's why I think I haven't played Spelunky 2 yet, but I think in that game it's also kind of like you have like this village you build up around the cave or something, and then you save people and stuff, and you can talk to them. But then, yeah, I think what I want is something like that, but they don't actually have an impact on gameplay, you know? I think that would be ideal, like, just to have some sort of sense of progression would be nice, right? But not so much that, like, yeah, for, like, players who feel demotivated, right? Who feel like there needs to be some kind of change outside of just the actual game. But then not, again, like I said, not so much that you feel pressured into doing all that stuff if you're not interested in it, that you can just focus on the game itself. I think that's the sweet spot I would like to hit. And then I wouldn't want to spend so many resources on like developing the characters and like writing dialogue and shit, you know? I guess that's one thing I mean, I know Hades has a lot of fucking text. But when you're actually playing it, it doesn't really feel like it. It feels like the conversations are pretty snappy. And I think that's one thing it did pretty well. So I think Hades, like, the model itself kind of makes sense, right? And it's interesting, and I kind of want to take inspiration from that, but like it's not quite there yet for me. Yeah, I guess I'll get back to you in like 10 years when I've made like the perfect roguelike. But that's sort of where my head is at with like the genre. If you have like recommendations for roguelikes, guys, I would really like to see those. I'd like to hear those, I guess. How do you feel about the genre? How is there games that have clicked with you? Have you had problems clicking with the genre? How How do you feel about Hades? Am I like an asshole for saying Hades is not that good? Yeah, let me know, and peace out.